All right, let's talk Artemis II. This is NASA's huge mission to send people back to the moon for the first time in more than half a century. We're going to break down this incredible journey from the moment it leaves the launch pad to the splashdown back on Earth.
You know, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around just how big a deal this is. I mean, think about it. The last time any human being left the cozy confines of low Earth orbit was all the way back in 1972. That was Apollo 17. So Artemis II, this is the mission that finally closes that 50-year gap. It's reigniting our journey into deep space.
So who's going on this ride? We've got a crew of 4 astronauts, and they are gearing up for a wild 10-day trip. Now, they're not actually landing on the moon this time around, but get this, they'll be pushing the envelope, looping around the moon and traveling farther away from our planet than anyone has ever gone before.
And this crew, wow, they're basically a collection of history makers. You've got Commander Wiseman leading the charge, then there's Victor Glover, who will be the first person of color to fly into deep space. We've got Christina Koch, the first woman to make this kind of trip, and representing the Canadian Space Agency, Jeremy Hansen becomes the first non-American to ever leave Earth's orbit. I mean, what a crew! It really signals a brand new era for space exploration.
Okay, so let's get to the action. How does a journey like this even start? Well, it all kicks off at the Kennedy Space Center, and the crew is strapped into the most powerful rocket ever built, the Space Launch System, or SLS for short.
That final countdown, it is just an absolutely incredible ballet of engineering. At the 10-minute mark, the ground launch sequencer, basically a computer, takes over everything. In those last few moments, the Orion capsule switches to its own power. Tanks are pressurized. Then, at just 10 seconds to go, you get that roar as the main engines ignite. And at T0, the boosters fire, and it's liftoff.
And the power needed to get off the ground is just mind-blowing. We're talking 8.8 million pounds of thrust. To put that into perspective, that's about 15% more powerful than the legendary Saturn V rockets from the Apollo missions. It's an absolutely insane amount of raw power. Those first 8 minutes are just a pure vertical drag race to space. It happens so fast. A little over 2 minutes in, bam, the massive solid rocket boosters are jettisoned. A minute after that, the launch abort system is gone. And then, right around the 8-minute mark, the huge core stage separates, leaving the Orion spacecraft to continue its journey into orbit.
Now, you don't just point a brand new spaceship at the moon and hope for the best. First, they spend about a day hanging out close to home. You can think of it as a crucial shakedown cruise, a final test drive to check every single system on that Orion spacecraft.
And they're not just doing a quick lap around the planet either. Orion actually makes 2 huge long orbits that take it thousands of miles away from Earth. This gives the crew the perfect chance to really put all the life support and vehicle systems to the test before they make that final commitment to go to the moon.
And a really cool part of this phase is when the astronauts actually take the wheel. They'll manually fly the Orion capsule for a couple of hours. The idea is to practice maneuvering it near the rocket's upper stage that they just discarded. This is super important practice for future missions when they'll need to dock with other spacecraft, like a lunar lander. All right, so all the checks are done, the systems are green. Now it's time for the big leap, the 4-day trip to the moon itself. So the big question is, how do you actually do that? How do you leave Earth's orbit and hit a moving target that's 250,000 miles away? Well, the answer comes down to one critical move, the translunar injection, or TLI. It's basically one last giant engine burn. Think of it like giving the spacecraft a massive push out the door, flinging it out of Earth's gravity and onto the perfect path to meet up with the moon 4 days later. And this is what it's all about. This is the main event of the entire mission, arriving at the moon for a historic flyby.
Yeah, this is the moment the Artemis II crew etches their names in the history books. They are going to fly farther from Earth than any human being has ever been. They're about to break a record that has stood since 1970, set by the crew of Apollo 13.
Just how far are we talking? About 4,600 miles past the far side of the moon. Can you just imagine that view? Looking back and seeing our entire planet, just this tiny, fragile-looking marble hanging in the blackness.
Okay, so how do they turn around and come home? They do something incredibly smart called a free return trajectory. It's exactly like it sounds, a cosmic slingshot. They let the moon's gravity do all the work, grabbing the spacecraft, whipping it around the far side, and then flinging it right back on a path towards Earth. It saves a ton of fuel.
And as they make that swing around the far side, something else happens. They go completely silent. For anywhere from 30 to 50 minutes, the entire moon is physically between them and Earth, blocking every single radio signal. They're completely and totally on their own.
So once that flyby is complete, it's another 4-day coast back home. But this all leads up to what is easily one of the most dangerous parts of the entire flight, screaming back into Earth's atmosphere.
You have to understand the speeds we're talking about here. Orion is going to hit the atmosphere at 25,000 miles per hour. That's not a typo. 25,000. The heat shield has to withstand temperatures hotter than the sun's surface, as it uses the air itself as a brake. It's a trial by fire, literally. And then, for the grand finale, a whole sequence of parachutes pop out, slowing the capsule way down until it makes a gentle splashdown in the Pacific Ocean. And right there waiting for them will be a U.S. Navy ship ready to bring our astronauts and their incredible spacecraft home safe.
So, at the end of the day, why does all this matter? I mean, it's way more than just a joyride around the moon. Artemis II is the ultimate test flight. It's about proving that the life support can actually keep people alive out there in deep space. It's about making sure Orion is safe and ready. And all the data they collect, that's what makes the next mission, Artemis III, the one that will actually land people back on the moon, possible. When you really step back and look at it, this mission is just the first step in a much bigger plan. The goal here is to learn how to live and work on the moon, so that from there we can take the next giant leap to Mars. So after a 50-year break, we're not just returning to where we've been, we're getting ready to go further than ever before. And you have to wonder, what are we going to find out there this time?